Welcome to this proposal clinic. And this short overview just tells you what I'm going to do when you have the online clinic. Now, in your proposal, there's two parts. There's part A, which is the bureaucratic part, your name, address, the budgets. And there's part B then, which is the scientific excellence, the impact, B2, and the implementation, B3. And what I want to focus on is the B2 part of the proposal. Now, when your proposal arrives in Brussels, the first people that get their hands on your proposal are some young official, and they'll check the proposal to see, have you the correct number of partners, is it the right type of grant, is the budget correct, and so on. So let's assume that that has been done. Your proposal is then sent out to a minimum of 3 evaluators. Now, these 3 evaluators, or maybe up to 5, depending on the budget, will read the proposal independently, and then they'll come together for something called a consensus meeting. Now, the consensus meeting, the 3 evaluators will agree a score on B1, scientific excellence, B2, impact, and B3, implementation. So it is possible to get 5 out of 5 in science and to fail with a low score in impact. So the 3 criteria have to be treated with the same urgency. Now, the evaluators are typically scientific evaluators, and their understanding of impact can be quite low. So when you're writing the impact, it has to be written as a story. And it has to be written in journalistic style, and it should be read by any person in the profession should be able to understand what the project is about. Now, let's assume that 100 proposals arrive. 10 proposals might fail because of some bureaucratic reason, and maybe 50 proposals will be rejected because of some either B1, B2, or B3. Now, what comes out of this phase is something called a consensus report. So 40 consensus reports will come out here, and then the Commission will check the budgets, and they'll find that only 20 can be funded. So then they set up what's called a panel. Now, the purpose of the panel is to decide which of the 40 will they keep. Now, during the panel meeting, there's a couple of very, very important things to remember. The document that arrives in the panel meeting is a 4-page consensus report. And the only part of your proposal that will be in the consensus report is the abstract. So when you're writing the abstract, you're writing it for the panel meeting. Now, during the panel meeting, they're not going to discuss science. They will just accept the scores of the scientific evaluators. But during the panel meeting, they will discuss the impact. Which project is more interesting from a European perspective? Now, during this panel meeting, I noticed that the Commission asked 5 key questions, and I'm going to present those to you in the clinic that we're doing. So in theory, this is how the proposals are evaluated: 3 different types: 1 bureaucratic, 1 scientific, and 1 the panel. So what I propose is that when you're writing a proposal, you prepare it in the opposite direction. You always begin with what I call the 1-page proposal, and that's exactly the exercise I'm going to do with you. So I'm going to assume that you got 14 out of 15, but there are 10 other projects with a score out of 14 or 15, and you have to convince me that your project is the one that should be funded. Now, if you're happy with your 1-page proposal, you should then take the evaluator's questions. Now, the 1-page proposal should become the abstract, and then you should look at the evaluator's questions, which I showed on the course. Now, I won't go into that today. And the last thing you do is actually fill in the official forms. So what I want you to present to me is, I'm going to pretend that I am at the panel meeting, and somebody is representing your proposal. So the first thing you're going to say, there's the topic. I want to see the title. Now, the title is the first selling that you do. So the title should make sense, and the title we'll see should reflect the impact of the project. Now, the first paragraph or the first slide is going to say to me, the aim of this project is to ABC, and the research question is, make my life easy and tell me immediately what you're trying to do. Now, in the second paragraph, or the second set of slides, I want you to answer the 5 key questions, because these are going to come up. They're not written. They're in the heads of the people in the panel. And for the impact, I want to know something very simple. What is coming out of your project and who wants those results, and more particularly, which partners in the project wants the results. Now, during the panel meeting, there's very little discussion on the science, so you might just give a very short paragraph on what you're actually going to do, who the partners are, and what the budget is. So that's basically the reason, the logic behind the proposal trainings that we're going to do. So I've sent you a template. So your first slide, you're going to give me a title and an acronym. You're going to tell me who you are and your email. Now this will just give me an idea of what status you're at. Is it a one-stage proposal or two-stage? When is the deadline? Have you met your partners? Have you met a national contact point? Have you funding to write the proposal, or are you doing it on a shoestring? And is it a resubmission from a previous proposal? Now there's a question at the bottom of this slide, very interesting question. Who's your competitor? Now your first slide should show me the topic, and you can just put in the title of the topic and the link, and please tell me which type of grant. Is it an innovation action, a research and innovation action? And another interesting question at the bottom of this slide, who wrote your topic? Now somebody in the European Commission typed it, but where did the information for the topic come from? Now I covered this on my courses, but is it a technology platform, a European Innovation Partnership? Is it the results of a public-private partnership, or whatever? Now, I don't want you to read this, but I've literally copied directly the impact part of the topic. So in your topic, you have the objectives, the scope, and impact. And these, when you're writing the impact, you have to address these individual things. So I'd like to see that in the slide. If you want to make 2 slides out of it, that's okay. Now, this is the biggest mistake that people make when they're writing proposals. They forget to educate the evaluator. Now, the evaluator may be somebody exactly in your field, but they may not be a specialist in the exact topic that you're looking at. So here's an example. I'll just give you a run through the kind of big picture. You want to show who the stakeholders or the different players are. So a patient could be either staying at home, they could be in a nursing home, or they could be living alone. And if you take a patient, they will have to go to the doctor. If it's very serious, they may be dealing with a specialist. And they also have to deal with chemists. Now, in this project, information is collected from the patient. It's given to the carers, the chemists, the doctors, and the specialist. And then advice can be sent back to the patient to tell them what to do. Now, this is the big picture. It explains that in technology, it would be called a value chain. In social science, it's kind of a stakeholder diagram. And what you're telling the evaluator here, look, these are all the stakeholders in this business, but there are more stakeholders. There are the people who pay for the different services. And does the insurance company want feedback from the system? There are regulation and standards that have to be taken into account. And of course, there are the people that develop the IT system. So when you're presenting a proposal, I don't want to hear about your project at the beginning. I want to know the big picture, and then you can use a diagram like this to say, this project is about designing the IT system and taking into account the regulations and the standards. So that's what I mean by the big picture. And it's a mistake that people make. They start telling about the details of the project without first educating the evaluator on this. Now, what you can do then is then take the project and draw a separate diagram and start describing the details. So you're going to say the aim of this project and the research question is. Now, I want to know, why bother? Now, in this, I want to see numbers. I don't want to see big, long sentences. You know, I want to see that the scale of the issue. Is it really serious, or is it a small issue? Why should Europe fund it? Why isn't it funded at national level, or why doesn't industry fund it? Why is it a European project? And please convince me that this hasn't been done before, because this is one of the first questions I'm going to ask you. Now, why now? Why wasn't this done before now? There's a killer question. And what would happen if we didn't fund it? And finally then, are you really the best people to do it? Now, they look like simple questions, but in the panel meeting, these are the kind of questions that will determine if your project is funded or not. Now, I want to know what TRL level the project is at. You know, is it 3, 4, 5, or if it's 5, 6, 7, or maybe if it's a basic science project, if it's at 1 or 2. But the most important thing I want to know is if the project is finishing at TRL 5, which partner is at TRL 6? Because this is the partner that wants the results of the project. So the last thing I want to know is, what are the results of the project? What's coming out of the project? And which partners want this? Now, in the interview or in the clinic, this is the part I'm going to spend most time interviewing you, and I will have a template. So I just want you to think about what results are coming out of the project. So that's it. I'm looking forward to meeting you. And if you have any questions, you can ask me on the day. And you can also have a look at the website, which is at the bottom of this slide, if you want to get some information about writing the proposal. Okay, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you.